breaking the new law. The king was distressed. He realized that he had been tricked by his own wise men, but there was nothing he could do. The law was the law, and even the king had to obey it. With a heavy heart, King Darius ordered that Daniel be thrown into the lion's den. That night, the king couldn't eat or sleep. He was so worried about Daniel. He stayed awake, fasting and praying that Daniel's God would protect him. Early the next morning, as soon as the sun began to rise, King Darius rushed to the lion's den. With a trembling voice, he called out, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" From deep within the den, Daniel's voice came back, strong and clear. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty." Overjoyed, the king ordered that Daniel be lifted out of the den. Everyone was amazed to see that Daniel was completely unharmed. Not a scratch was found on him because he had trusted in his God. The king was so happy that Daniel was safe. He decided to punish the men who had tricked him. They were thrown into the lion's den, and this time, the lions did not stay calm. King Darius then made a new decree to his entire kingdom. He taught his people about the power and goodness of Daniel's God. For he is the living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. So friends, the story of Daniel in the lion's den is a powerful reminder of the importance of faith and trust in God. Daniel's unwavering belief in God protected him from harm and showed everyone around him the might and mercy of the true God. Please show me your support and love through likes, shares, subscribes, and comments. Every support helps me keep going. Here are some important lessons we can learn from Daniel's story. 1. ****. Trust in God. No matter the circumstances, trusting in God gives us strength and courage. 2. ****. Stand firm in your faith. Like Daniel, stay true to your beliefs even when it's difficult. 3. ****. God protects the faithful. God's protection and care are with those who are faithful to him. 4. ****. Courage in the face of danger. Daniel's courage in the lion's den shows us that we can face our fears with God's help. So how can we apply these lessons in our own lives? By being kind, honest, and brave, and by trusting in God's plan for us even when we face challenges. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into an incredible story of bravery, faith, and justice. Our tale begins in the Grand Kingdom of Persia, where a young Jewish woman named Esther becomes queen and faces a challenge that will test her courage and faith. This is the story of Queen Esther and how she stood up for justice. Once upon a time, in the Kingdom of Persia, there was a mighty king named Xerxes. He ruled over 127 provinces, stretching from India to Kush. King Xerxes was known for his vast wealth and power. In the 3rd year of his reign, he held a magnificent banquet for all his nobles, officials, and military leaders to showcase his kingdom's splendor. This celebration lasted a full 180 days, followed by a 7-day feast in the king's palace garden for everyone in the citadel of Susa. Amidst the festivities, Queen Vashti, the wife of King Xerxes, also held a banquet for the women in the royal palace. On the 7th day of the feast, when King Xerxes was in high spirits from wine, he commanded his 7 eunuchs to bring Queen Vashti before him, wearing her royal crown, to display her beauty to his guests. But Queen Vashti refused to come which enraged the king. Furious and humiliated, King Xerxes consulted his advisors, who suggested that Queen Vashti be deposed to prevent other women in the kingdom from disrespecting their husbands. The king agreed, and Vashti was removed from her royal position. As time passed, King Xerxes began to miss Vashti and regret his decision. His attendants proposed a solution, a search for the most beautiful young women in the kingdom, to find a new queen. This is where our heroine, Esther, enters the story. Esther was a young Jewish woman living in the citadel of Susa. She was raised by her cousin Mordecai after her parents died. Esther was known for her beauty and grace. When the king's order was proclaimed, Esther, along with many other young women, was brought to the palace and placed under the care of Hegai, the king's eunuch in charge of the harem. Esther quickly won Hegai's favor, and he provided her with beauty treatments, special food, and 7 attendants from the king's palace. Esther kept her Jewish heritage a secret, as Mordecai had instructed her. Each day, Mordecai walked near the courtyard of the harem to find out how Esther was doing. After 12 months of beauty treatments, Esther's turn came to go to the king. She asked for nothing except what Hegai suggested, and she won the favor of everyone who saw her. When Esther was taken to King Xerxes, he was captivated by her beauty and grace, and he placed the royal crown on her head, making her the new queen. Now, let's turn our attention to a man named Haman, who was elevated to a high position by King Xerxes. All the royal officials knelt down and paid honor to Haman, except for Mordecai, who refused to bow down to him. This enraged Haman, and he sought revenge not only against Mordecai, but against all the Jews in the kingdom. Haman approached King Xerxes and described the Jews as a threat to the kingdom, persuading the king to issue a decree to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews on a single day. The decree was sent out to all the provinces, and the Jews were thrown into great mourning. When Mordecai learned of the decree, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. Esther's attendants informed her of Mordecai's distress, and she sent clothes for him to wear, but he refused. Esther then sent Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, to find out what was troubling Mordecai. Mordecai explained the decree to Hathach and asked him to urge Esther to go before the king and plead for her people's lives. Esther replied that anyone who approached the king without being summoned would be put to death unless the king extended his gold scepter. Mordecai's response to Esther was profound. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone will escape. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Moved by Mordecai's words, Esther asked him to gather all the Jews in Susa to fast for 3 days. She and her attendants would do the same. She resolved to go to the king, even if it meant risking her life, saying, "If I perish, I perish." On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace. When the king saw her, he was pleased and extended the gold scepter. Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. The king asked her what she wanted, promising to grant her request up to half the kingdom. Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet she had prepared. At the banquet, the king again asked Esther what she wanted. She requested that the king and Haman join her for another banquet the next day. Haman left the banquet in high spirits, but his joy turned to rage when he saw Mordecai, who still refused to bow to him. Haman's wife and friends suggested he set up a pole and asked the king to have Mordecai impaled on it. That night, the king couldn't sleep and ordered the book of the Chronicles to be read to him. He learned that Mordecai had uncovered a plot to assassinate him and had never been rewarded. The next day, Haman came to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai. Before he could, the king asked Haman how to honor someone. Thinking the king meant to honor him, Haman suggested a royal robe, a horse, and a parade through the city. To his shock, the king ordered Haman to do this for Mordecai. Haman obeyed, leading Mordecai through the streets. He returned home in grief, and his wife and friends predicted his downfall. Haman was then hurried to Esther's second banquet. During the banquet, the king asked Esther her request once more. Esther revealed Haman's plot to destroy her people, the Jews. The king, furious, left the room. Haman begged Esther for his life. When the king returned and saw Haman on the couch where Esther was reclining, he accused Haman of attacking the queen. One of the eunuchs informed the king about the pole Haman had set up for Mordecai. The king ordered Haman to be impaled on it. That same day, the king gave Esther Haman's estate, and Mordecai was promoted to a high position in the kingdom. But the story doesn't end there. Esther pleaded with the king to issue a new decree to save the Jews. The king allowed Mordecai to write a decree granting the Jews the right to defend themselves. The decree was sent out, and on the appointed day, the Jews triumphed over their enemies. The Jews celebrated their victory, and the Feast of Purim was established to commemorate their deliverance. Mordecai became second in rank to King Xerxes, and he continued to work for the good of his people. The story of Esther teaches us the power of courage, faith, and standing up for justice. Esther's bravery and willingness to risk her life saved her people and changed the course of history. Her story reminds us that we all have a role to play in making the world a better place, and sometimes we are called to take a stand, even when it's difficult. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales from history and beyond. Until next time, remember to stand up for justice and have faith in the power of doing what's right.
Once upon a time, in a world where people had forgotten to be kind, there lived a man named Noah who worshipped God. Noah was a man of faith, but everyone else around him disobeyed and hated God. One day, something shocking happened. God spoke to Noah, revealing a plan to destroy the wicked world, sparing only Noah's family. God instructed Noah to build a wooden ark, a boat big enough for his family and many animals. Noah got to work, following God's exact instructions. Probably, people mocked Noah as he explained why he was building an ark. But Noah kept building, also spreading the word about God, though nobody listened. As the ark neared completion, God brought animals of all kinds, 7 of some species, 2 of others. Birds and beasts, tiny and tall, all made their way to the ark. Perhaps people shouted insults at Noah, but they did not stop sinning against God. They did not ask to enter the ark. Finally, all the animals and birds were aboard. God invited Noah and his family into the ark. As they entered, God shut the door. Then the rain came, a great downpour soaking the earth for 40 days and nights. Floodwaters covered towns and villages. The ark floated on top of the rising waters, sheltering Noah from the flood. After 5 months, a drying wind sent by God brought the ark to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Noah and his family waited inside as the water lowered. Noah sent a raven and a dove out. The dove returned with an olive leaf, a sign that the earth was slowly drying. God told Noah it was time to leave the ark. Together, Noah and his family unloaded the animals. Noah, filled with gratitude, built an altar and worshipped God who had saved him and his family from the awful flood. God gave Noah a wonderful promise. Never again would he send a flood to judge human sin. As a great reminder of this promise, God gifted the world with a rainbow, a beautiful sign of his covenant. And so, Noah and his family found new beginnings after the flood. In time, his descendants repeopled the whole earth, and all nations came from Noah and his children.
God's promise to Abraham. Long ago, after a big flood washed the earth clean, only Noah and his family were safe on a big boat with lots of animals. When the water went away, people started to build things again. They had a big idea. Let's build a tall tower that touches the sky, right up to the stars. They wanted to stay together and be friends forever. But something magical happened. Suddenly, everyone started speaking in different languages. It was so confusing because nobody could understand each other anymore. So, the people split up, finding new places to live with others who spoke the same language. The big city they left behind was called Babel, which means a big mix-up. Then, in a place called Ur, God talked to a man named Abram. God said, "Abram, go on an adventure to a special land I'll show you." Abram, his wife Sarai, and his nephew Lot packed up and went to a beautiful land called Canaan. Canaan was filled with green fields and clear blue skies. Abram and Lot had so many sheep and cows. The land they were living on didn't have enough grass and water for all the animals. So, the workers of Abraham and Lot started arguing over the best spots for their animals to eat and drink. Abram wanted everyone to be happy and not fight. He told Lot, "Let's not argue. You choose any part of the land you like, and I'll go the other way." That way, there was enough room for all their animals. Lot looked around and saw a really nice area with lots of water and green grass near the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. It looked like the best spot for his animals, so he chose to move there. Abraham stayed in the land of Canaan, where God asked him to stay. Even though Abraham and Lot had to live apart to stop the arguing, Abraham made sure they did it in a kind and peaceful way, showing he was a really good uncle and a wise man. God saw Abram's kind heart and told him, "This whole big, beautiful land will belong to you and your children and their children after them, forever." But Abram and Sarai were very old and didn't have any children. They wondered, how will God's promise come true? One day, 3 special visitors brought amazing news. "Sarai, you're going to have a baby." Sarai laughed because she thought she was too old for that. God also changed their names to Abraham and Sarah to show they were going to start a big family. Then, God said he had to fix the 2 naughty cities near where Lot lived. Abraham was worried for Lot. Lot listened to the angels and escaped with his daughters. But Lot's wife looked back and turned into a salt statue. Then, the most wonderful thing happened. Even though they were very old, Abraham and Sarah had a baby boy named Isaac. Isaac, which means laughter. They were so happy and amazed at God's miracle. Abraham knew then that God always keeps his promises, like giving him a big family and a beautiful land to live in. And that's the story of how Abraham and Sarah learned to trust in God's promises, no matter how impossible they seemed. The end.
Once upon a starry night, in a land filled with whispers of the past and promises for the future, Abraham, a man known for his kindness and faith, received a very tough test from God. God asked him to do something unimaginable, to offer his dearest son Isaac as a special gift back to God. This was to see if Abraham trusted God above all else, even more than he loved his precious son. Abraham's heart felt heavy, like a stone sinking in a deep, deep ocean. But deep inside, he knew he had to trust God, no matter how hard it seemed. So, with a brave yet heavy heart, he prepared for the journey. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in soft hues of pink and orange, Abraham, Isaac, and their 2 faithful servants set off on a journey filled with uncertainty. Abraham carried the fire and a knife, while Isaac, unaware of what was to come, carried the wood for the fire. As they neared the mountain that God had told them about, Abraham asked his servants to wait for them at the foot of the mountain. "Isaac and I will go up to worship, and then we'll come back to you," he said with a gentle smile. Climbing the mountain, Isaac, with a curious twinkle in his eye, asked, "Father, we have the wood and the fire, but where is the lamb for the offering?" Abraham, with a heart full of hope, replied, "My son, God will take care of it. He will provide the lamb for the offering." Reaching the top, Abraham built an altar, the most difficult one he ever had to make. He arranged the wood, and with a heart weighed down by a sea of emotions, he gently placed Isaac on the altar, ready to show God that he trusted him completely. But just as Abraham raised the knife, a voice as powerful as thunder, but as gentle as a whisper, stopped him. "Stop, Abraham." It was an angel sent by God. The angel said, "You've shown that you trust God above all by being willing to give up your only son." Then Abraham saw a ram caught in some nearby bushes. With a heart bursting with relief and gratitude, he untied Isaac, and together they offered the ram to God. It was a moment filled with so much joy and thankfulness. Abraham and Isaac returned home, their bond stronger than ever, their hearts filled with the knowledge that when you trust in God, He always provides, just in the right way and at the right time. And so, under the same stars that had witnessed their journey, Abraham and Isaac found comfort in knowing that no matter what, God's love and care would always guide them, just like it guides us all. The end. The Adventure of Abraham and Isaac, a new beginning. Once upon a time, after a big adventure on a mountain, Abraham and his son Isaac were on their way back home. Then, while the stars twinkled like tiny smiles above them, a kind angel came with a message that made their hearts dance. "Abraham," the angel said, "your family will be as numerous as the stars. And guess what? They're going to bring happiness to the whole wide world." It was like a secret promise about a hero who would come from their family tree, someone very special named Jesus. But when they got back home, they found themselves in a very quiet house. Sarah, the laughter and love of their home, had gone on a journey to the stars. Abraham and Isaac felt very sad, missing her warm hugs and bright smile. Abraham had an idea to bring some joy back into their home. He called his most trusted friend, a wise old servant, and gave him a very important mission. "It's time for Isaac to find a companion, someone to share stories and dreams with," Abraham said. "Please find a kind lady from our family for Isaac." The servant set off on his camels, hoping for a little help from the stars. As he reached a faraway land, he made a wish. "Let the right lady be the one who offers water to my thirsty camels." It wasn't just any wish. It was a special kind of hope that only the kindest hearts could fulfill. Like a scene from a beautiful story, along came Rebecca with a smile as bright as the dawn. She saw the camels, tired and thirsty, and offered them cool, refreshing water. The servant's eyes sparkled with joy. This must be the one, he thought. She was kind, just like the wish. Rebecca, brave and full of adventure, said yes to a new journey. She traveled across the deserts and mountains to meet Isaac. When Isaac saw her, it was like spring had come to his heart, filling it with flowers and sunshine. Rebecca's kindness and laughter brought new stories and dreams to their home. Isaac and Rebecca, hand in hand, started a wonderful adventure together, full of love and promise. And so, the story of Abraham, Isaac, and now Rebecca reminds us all. After every big adventure, after every sad goodbye, there's always a new beginning, a chance for love and joy to grow again, just like the stars that twinkle in the night sky. The end. Jacob and Esau, a story of brothers and forgiveness. Once upon a time, in a land of ancient wonders, Isaac and Rebekah were blessed with not one, but 2 sons at the same time. These were no ordinary boys. They were twins named Jacob and Esau. Even before they were born, they were already showing their unique personalities, with Esau loving the thrill of the hunt, and Jacob preferring the quiet of home. Esau, the elder, was as rugged and wild as the forests he roamed, while Jacob, the younger, was thoughtful and clever, always with a plan up his sleeve. Their parents loved them dearly, but each had a favorite, which brewed a little competition between the brothers. One day, as Esau returned from his adventures, famished and weary, Jacob saw an opportunity. He offered Esau a simple meal in exchange for his birthright, the special status of the firstborn. Esau, thinking little of the future, agreed. This moment would change the course of their lives in ways they couldn't imagine. As the boys grew, so did their rivalry, especially when it came time for their father Isaac to bestow his special blessing. Rebekah, who adored Jacob, devised a plan to ensure her favorite son received this honor. With a bit of disguise and a daring heart, Jacob tricked his father and received the blessing meant for Esau. Realizing the deception, Esau was heartbroken and filled with anger. To protect Jacob from Esau's wrath, Rebekah sent him far away to her brother Laban's house, hoping that time would heal the rift between her sons. Jacob's journey was not easy. He worked tirelessly for Laban, enduring trickery and toil, all for the love of Rachel, Laban's daughter. Yet, through these trials, Jacob grew wiser and kinder, learning the value of honesty and hard work. Years passed, and God called Jacob to return home, but the thought of facing Esau filled Jacob with dread. What if Esau still harbored anger and sought revenge? Nevertheless, Jacob set out, hoping for forgiveness. As Jacob neared his homeland, he prepared for the worst. But to his surprise, Esau greeted him not with anger, but with open arms. The brothers embraced, their past grievances washed away by tears of joy. It was a moment of true reconciliation, proving that love can overcome the deepest divides. Together again, Jacob and Esau showed us that it's never too late to mend broken bonds, and that forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts we can offer. The end. Joseph's journey, from dreamer to dreamkeeper. In a land where families were as vast as the stars, Isaac's heart was full of joy as his son Jacob returned home. Even Esau, who once harbored anger, welcomed Jacob with open arms. But not all was peaceful, for Jacob's sons felt a storm brewing in their hearts, troubled by their younger brother Joseph, who was clearly the apple of their father's eye. Joseph, with his bright, colorful coat, a gift from Jacob, was a dreamer. His dreams, however, sparked flames of jealousy among his brothers. In one dream, Joseph saw his own sheaf of grain standing tall, while his brother's sheaves bowed down to it. In another, the sun, moon, and even the stars bowed before him. These dreams whispered of a future where Joseph would rise above them all, even his parents and brothers. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers in the fields. As he approached, their jealousy turned to dark whispers of getting rid of the dreamer. Reuben, the eldest, suggested they put Joseph in a pit instead, secretly planning to save him later. But while Reuben was away, a caravan heading to Egypt appeared. Judah, another brother, proposed they sell Joseph instead of harming him directly. And so, for 20 pieces of silver, Joseph's fate was sealed, and he was taken far from his homeland, his heart heavy with sorrow and fear. The brothers deceived their father, presenting Joseph's colorful coat, now stained with goat's blood, letting Jacob believe his beloved son was gone forever. Jacob's grief was a deep well of sorrow, with no one able to console him. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph found himself a slave in Potiphar's house. Despite his hardships, Joseph's diligence and trust in God shone brightly, earning him Potiphar's favor and the position of chief servant. But just as things seemed to be looking up, Joseph faced a new trial. Potiphar's wife, with dishonest intentions, falsely accused Joseph, leading to his unjust imprisonment. Even in the depths of a dungeon, Joseph's spirit remained unbroken. He understood that through all trials, honoring God was his true strength, a beacon of hope that illuminated even the darkest of places. The end. Joseph's journey from prison to palace. Once upon a time in a far-off land called Egypt, Joseph found himself in a dark prison, wrongly accused by Potiphar, his former master. But even in such a grim place, Joseph's kindness and helpful nature shone bright. The warden saw something special in Joseph and trusted him to help organize prison life, making it a better place for everyone. One day, Joseph noticed two new prisoners looking particularly downcast. They were the king's baker and butler, troubled by dreams they couldn't understand. Joseph, with his unwavering faith, assured them, "God can reveal what your dreams mean. Tell me about them." To the butler, Joseph predicted a return to Pharaoh's favor in just 3 days and asked to be remembered. To the baker, however, Joseph had to deliver some unfortunate news. Just as Joseph had said, the butler was restored to his position, but he forgot about Joseph, leaving him in prison. Time passed until one day, Pharaoh himself was troubled by a mysterious dream. Remembering Joseph's gift, the butler finally spoke up, leading to Joseph's summoning. Standing before Pharaoh, Joseph humbly explained that the dream foretold 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. He advised Pharaoh to store food during the good years to prepare for the tough times ahead. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom and his clear connection to God, Pharaoh declared, "You will take charge in Egypt, second only to me." And so, Joseph went from prison to palace, overseeing the land's preparations for the coming famine. As predicted, the years of plenty came and went, and famine spread across the land. Back in Joseph's homeland, his family was starving. Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain, not knowing that they would come face to face with their long-lost brother, now the lordly ruler of Egypt. Joseph recognized his brothers, but they didn't know him. Recalling his boyhood dreams, Joseph realized that this moment was part of a bigger plan. He tested his brothers, demanding they return with their youngest brother Benjamin to prove their honesty. When they returned, Joseph could no longer hide his true identity. Overcome with emotion, he revealed himself to his brothers, saying, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt." The brothers were speechless, fearing for what might come next. But Joseph comforted them, explaining that their actions had been part of a divine plan to save their family from famine. "God made me Lord in Egypt so I could save your lives," he told them. Soon after, Jacob and Joseph were joyfully reunited in Egypt, and the entire family was settled there, living in peace and plenty, thanks to Joseph's faith and God's guiding hand. The end.
Moses, from prince to leader. Long ago in Egypt, Moses, a prince raised in Pharaoh's palace, faced a moment that would change his life. Despite his royal upbringing, Moses never forgot he was a Hebrew at heart. One day, he saw an Egyptian mistreating a Hebrew slave. Feeling a rush of protectiveness, Moses looked around and, seeing no one, stepped in to save the slave but ended up making a grave mistake. The very next day, Moses tried to stop a fight between two Hebrews, only to realize his secret was out. The news even reached Pharaoh, forcing Moses to flee to a faraway land called Midian for safety. In Midian, Moses found himself by a well where he helped the 7 daughters of Reuel, a priest, fend off some rude shepherds. Impressed by Moses' bravery, Reuel invited him home, leading to Moses marrying